Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Aniegolu. Now think back to the extraordinary musical stock of some of Nigeria's most prolific highlife musicians, such as Bobby Benson, Victor Olaiya, Roy Chicago, to mention a few. The amazing musical firestorm they created in the 50s and 60s and the legacy they left behind that eventually metamorphosed into Afro rock and Afro beats might never have happened if it wasn't for the invention of the recording studio. But even then, it took a pioneering music recording executive to bring such facilities to Nigeria and to open a recording studio in the west of the country, the first such facility in this country. His name was Emmanuel Badejo Okusanya, and not only was he arguably the first indigenous owner of a record company in Nigeria, he improved on it by bringing Phillips Records from Holland to do business in Nigeria, thus opening the way for some of this country's greatest artists to popularize their art. Well, in a moment, we'll examine the towering legacy of Emmanuel Badejo Okusanya. But first, take a listen to some of the music that was recorded in his studio and those of Phillips Records. This one's from Bobby Benson, and it's appropriately titled Gentleman Bobby. Well, for more on the pioneering Nigerian music recording executive, Emmanuel Badejo Okusanya, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined now in the studio by his son, the PR consultant, Yomi Badejo Okusanya, and by the 1960s and 70s Nigerian music impresario, Chief Tony Amadi. Thank you very much indeed to both of you for joining us. And let me start with you, Yomi, because just listening to that music, I could see you nodding your head. For you, obviously, not only is it just the quality of the music, it's also bringing back memories of your father. Tell us how it made you feel when you heard that.
Well, I mean, seeing Uncle Bobby there reminds me of the days in Kababambo. Of course, I couldn't go, but I remember
you were
we
in
used
diapers.
to go there. Yes, well,
Virtually.
we used to go and visit him, and he would give us, I think it was a shilling or something, or I can't remember what it was. But what I remember Uncle Bobby for was that he drove the most exotic cars in town. And whenever he bought the cars, he would bring them to my father's house, maybe to bless it or to show him. And I remember first seeing the E-Type Jaguar live.
That's the James Bond E-Type
Jaguar. I first saw it with Uncle Bobby when he brought it to the house. And then a Mercedes-Benz 6 doors, the extended, the stretch one.
Yes.
I first saw it with Uncle Bobby. As a matter of fact, I remember the first time I saw a 504 Peugeot was with also Uncle Bobby. Many memories because I grew up on music.
Well, we are absolutely thrilled to bits that you can share those memories with us. And let me bring you in, Chief Tony Amadi, because of course you straddled that era beyond the specific work that his father did, which is obviously enormous. You were working with so many musicians, you wrote about so many of them, and that brand of highlife music was popular enough in those days that it just became, I mean, like wildly, as I said, wildly kinetic all over the West Africa.
Let me just confirm that he wasn't telling a lie about Bobby.
And the cars.
The first day I arrived in London, I came out of the immigration, and there was Bobby with the former Nigerian U.S. High Commissioner, or what do you call it there. And he drove me and Edwin Obu in a Rolls Royce. Can you imagine? I never dreamt of entering London.
Not to talk of getting into a Rolls Royce.
He drove me to his house and said, I'm not going anywhere. I had come to go and report on Fela's first international trip. And here was Bobby taking me to his hotel in a Rolls Royce and keeping me there overnight, shopping for me, and sending me off to go and meet Fela wherever he was in central London.
Yeah, those are brilliant memories.
Great,
but Yomi,
great.
let me bring you back in, because this really chat is about your father and the legacy that he left. I mean, the truth is that a lot of these records might never have happened if it wasn't for his pioneering, idea that, music recording, these guys are doing fantastic stuff. We need to put it down for posterity. Let's bring a recording studio in. Tell us what you know of how it came about.
Well, obviously I was much younger.
Yeah, of course, but you would have heard a lot about it.
But I did hear what happened.
Yeah.
He was the director of Phillips. That's Phillips Records. And he brought Phillips Nigeria, I think. He brought the company to Nigeria. And then they were, marketing music, Western music, and then only for him to say that, look, I have the indigenous music, but Phillips wasn't interested in all those, and says, okay, can I use your studio initially to record these guys, and I'll start a label. So that's how Badejo Records started, which was that label then. And so he would do that, and I know what he used to do then was that one side there were 45s, mainly 45s then, and then one side of the music will belong to the artist, and the other side will belong to him. So take for instance, I know
you
that
mean the royalties.
The royalties,
okay,
I beg your pardon. The royalties, I beg your pardon. And so many of those artists, till today, if they need to release their records or remix, they have to come to us because we've got to sign. Just like Uncle Victor Olaiya, who, for all my life, he passed on last year, unfortunately.
Yeah, we did a big tribute to Victor Olaiya on Arise. I have to tell you, I have to say, Victor Olaiya was a phenomenal musician. We're going to hear some of his music later on, but Olaiya's own brand of music, now that he's brought it up for Tony, was new at that time. I mean, it was, and it's amazing that I had an uncle who absolutely loved Victor Olaiya. And even up till now, with all the crackles on the records and the quality of the recording, the sound is just so distinctive when you listen to it. I mean, absolutely brilliant.
You're right, Charles, because when he plays his trumpet, it's just smooth, and he can do anything with it. He is one of the greatest.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely.
We are talking about Badejo, right? Badejo, he laid the foundation, along with others like C.T. Onyekwelu across the Niger.
Yes,
they were of that same era, and they were the ones that put Nigerian music where it started from.
Absolutely, on the international map.
Exactly, so it's a fantastic moment.
And the thing about it, I don't mean to interrupt you, Yomi, that made your father's work and what he did, which is why one of the reasons we're remembering him today, is the fact that not only did he pioneer the recording music in Nigeria, but he by what he did, he stopped Nigerians from traveling to places like Ghana and so on and so forth, with all the hazards of going somewhere and another country and all of that. That was the first time that everybody felt, good God, we can do this in Nigeria. And that made him, as I said, I mean, that's his own legacy right there.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was young, but I know he had a studio at 3 Olorogun Street. We were living on, I think, number 5, and his studio was on number 3.
That was in Lagos.
In Lagos, and he had a fleet of taxis. I was made to understand that it was one of the taxis that was the original horn of Pam Pam.
Okay, the taxi driver.
The taxi driver. It was taken from his studio. Benson. It was one of his taxis that was, if you marry taxi driver, I don't care.
Yes. I think we're hopefully, if we've got time, we're going to listen to a bit of that. But Tony, he then brought these guys in. But he started discovering them, and there's a particular thing that he didn't like Victor Olaiya's music originally, did he? I mean,
well, I don't know. What I do know about what I think it was Uncle Victor who told me this, that when the royalties for his records were coming out, and my dad wouldn't pay him, and he felt, he really felt very upset with him. and you know, give me my money, it's my money, and all of that. And I think my dad said something like, no, until I find what you want to do with the money. So I can imagine telling an adult that.
Well, that's almost patronizing,
yes.
but I suppose that was acceptable in those days.
Well, I guess he was. I mean, he was much older than Uncle Victor. Uncle Victor died, 80-something. My dad died 60, almost 50 years ago, and he was 60. So he was way gap.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, and Uncle Victor told me this himself, that it was the money he collected that when he now saw the site of where Stadium Hotel is today, my dad released the money to him. So he kept on saying that if not for your father, I wouldn't have this place. And I thank him. At that time, he said to me, if I had the money, I'd have spent it all, you know, on other things.
Blown it away.
You know, blown it away.
Right. And Tony, that period was, of course, the 50s into the 60s. I mean, we weren't just talking about music. To get a sense of what was going on at the time, it was a time when there were a lot of political movements in Africa, also in Nigeria, preparations for independence. The country was discovering its own identity. And a lot of that identity was manifested in the music, wasn't it?
Yes, that's true. And exactly that was why his dad was very close to Awolowo, Rotimi Williams, this for Attorney General of Western Nigeria in those days.
These were political giants.
Yes, giants. Yeah. And what are they doing with a music producer? Because he's the one who's going to do a lot of broadcast, record music. You know, those people were very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
On both sides.
They were capturing the spirit and the mood of the nation.
Exactly. And the politicians who knew how to cultivate people that would be useful to them, you know, needed him. And they all made it up, and it helped.
The guy who gave King Sunny Ade his break is a guy called Tunde Amuwo. They used to call him Captain. Captain was the head of the band of AG, Action Group. So
because that was the political party.
That was the political
in the West.
party, and so he headed the band, AD band, and he was the one who gave King Sunny Ade his first break to form a band.
So that shows the link between the politics and the culture.
Yeah. And what the music at that time was talking about what was going on, what was happening.
Right.
So let me give you
you hold that thought. Okay. We'll talk about it when we come back, and don't forget to do it. The auto cue's gone away, but you're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still to come as we continue our chat about Emmanuel Badejo Okusanya, Nigeria's pioneering executive in music recording. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Onyegolo. Now, there were the decades that changed the world of music in Nigeria, the 50s and 60s, when the possibilities seemed limitless and Nigeria's youth found their post-colonial cultural identity. A new wildly kinetic rhythm had emerged known as highlife, and with it, a pioneering executive in music recording in Nigeria. His name was Emmanuel Badejo Okusanya, the first indigenous owner of a record company in Nigeria, who subsequently brought Phillips Records from Holland and became the first chairman of the Nigerian Recording Association. And through him came a whole slew of artists, Bobby Benson, Victor Olaiya, Roy Chicago, to mention a few. Today, we are paying exceptional tribute to Emmanuel Badejo Okusanya, Nigeria's pioneering executive in music recording. And here's one of the artists who came through his stall, Victor Olaiya, and the PR consultant, Yomi Badejo Okusanya, who is the son of the man we're celebrating today, and also, of course, the Nigerian music impresario, Chief Tony Amadi, are still with me in the studio. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. And before we went on break, Yomi, you were telling us a story which I thought was quite riveting, but then we had to interrupt you. I apologize for that, but just continue from where you left off.
Okay, what I'm saying is that the music of then reflected what was going on at that point in time. So take one of the tracks of Bobby Benson, Miole Jewa, which means I can't eat beans. Now, beans was related to people who went to jail. Now, Uncle Toss was betrothed to somebody.
That is T.O.S. Benson.
Yes, T.O.S. with his older brother.
Right.
And when she got to England, she met somebody else and started dating. And I think in the process of Uncle Toss trying to gallantly go to go and claim back his wife, or quote and unquote, he got into trouble with the police because he was accused of trespassing on the property and stealing a watch. So he was taken to the Old Baileys. Now you must remember that Uncle Toss at this time was the Federal Minister of Information. The Minister of Information being taken to the Old Bailey in the UK. And how did his brother respond? He came up with a song, Mi ò lè jẹ̀wà nítorí obìnrin, which meant I can't go to jail because of a girl. And I don't want to mention the lady's name because she's alive, and I'm sure those who are there would know what we're talking about, and says, look, left to him, please let this lady go, and so on and so forth. So you found out that there were things that were happening at that time. There was, we mentioned Roy Chicago, Oromare Aladubo, Wotunba Shamirode, which means that come and listen, these ladies have come with another fashion, one called Onile Gogoro, which is a way to tie your head, knot your head tie. So it was kind of a social commentary that was going on at that time. You could tell what era the music was with what was
Yes,
happening.
I see what you mean. But that's something that is not associated with art in many ways. So, I mean, it reflected the era. So if you want to find out about that period, kind of listen to the songs and you'll get to know more. And Tony, I mean, just taking off from what he was saying, what we forget is that these people were young folks at that time. I mean, the 50s, the 40s, the 60s. I mean, they were,
very
teen, 20s, that sort of thing.
Just like Davidos of today.
Yes,
Whiskey.
absolutely. I mean, they were young people, and so the music they played was just. One thing I detect in it was a sort of innocence, you know what I mean? A kind of innocence, but also imbued with a lot of hope. Because here was a country coming into its own, and these people were the inheritors of that country. And therefore, there was this extraordinary sense of promise coming through the music, wasn't there?
I mean, it just like I was listening to the theme music of the Arise fashion show starting today, Ojo Eleba. The way that music struck me today, is amazing. How Nduka Obaibona selected that for the world audience that is all heading for Dubai right now is fantastic. And this is the kind of thing that you're really talking about. Music, art, and the musicians, they were so young. You look at these people making all the money now in the music scene, they're all so young. You begin to wonder, what are they going to do with these piles and piles of money? It never happened in those days, but it shows progress.
So when we sit here talking about the incredible legacy of your father and all the people who went through his stall, as it were, to get to where they are. I mean, what do you think when you hear all that in final tribute to a man who was clearly absolutely legendary?
Well, I must thank you, Charles, for bringing this up, because
Well, I must thank you for being the son of the man and being available to be interviewed.
Next year will be 50 years since my dad died, and largely I would say that those who knew him in the era did know him, but he's been largely unsung, because take for instance, we're from Ogun State, and when they talk about Ogun first, Ogun has something that says the first person. He's never there because perhaps those who now know, many of them had passed on. So how do I feel? On behalf of the family of Emmanuel Badejo Okusanya, I want to thank Arise TV for finally doing some level of justice to his legacy and the much work that he did in the music career. If we had a 1.5 hours, 2 hours, I can tell you about a lot more. But
well, I have to be honest, it's a deserving legacy.
Thank you so much.
And the one thing that is absolutely important, Tony, isn't it, is that we as a country and as a people must celebrate our history and our legacies. Because if you don't know where you're coming from, how are you going to know where you're going? It always reminds me of Andy Cap, the cartoon character, who would always say, asking me where I'm coming from, where I'm going, when I don't know where I'm coming from. But that's an important legacy. And one of the reasons we have you here, Tony, is that you were an essential part of the era immediately after that era. And through people like yourself and his father, music became a vehicle for expression in this country. And we thank you guys for that.
That's maybe why God kept me alive till today. Those three people you have there, Roy Chicago, Bobby Benson, and Victor Olaiya, were all my friends. In fact, Roy Chicago actually took me from Biafra back to Lagos in a federal government flight when he went to, play music to Obasanjo's, troops in Port Harcourt.
Well, we could be talking about all this for many. I mean, as you said, it could take more than an hour. Saying, but unfortunately, we're out of time.
I know.
Tony Amadi and Yomi Badejo Okusanya, I want to thank both of you very much indeed. That's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja and Lagos, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.